Today we're going to replace some rotten wood in the floor. Unfortunately, where my freezer sits, it has condensated underneath and has caused some wood to rot. So we're going to get that cut out and we're going to get it replaced, and I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to go into detail and we're going to get it done right. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Deerdorf and this is Detroit DIY. Let's show you what we got going on. So I'm installing laminate flooring and I'm in the laundry room in my freezer. It's a small 7 cubic foot chest freezer. Sits right here. And as you can see, there has been a ton of condensation going on under it that I had no idea was happening. Not only that, but it has degraded the wood. So this is not good. You could probably fall through that. I'm not going to step on it and find out. But what we're going to do is we're going to get this out of here and we are going to get a new piece in. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is determine exactly what is coming out. So there's a seam right here somewhere. I believe that's it right there. And this has probably been replaced before. I'm thinking this has been replaced. This piece right here I replaced about 8 years ago. So I know that the framework that I need is already there. However, I used some wood putty / plastic body filler to kind of blend some of the edges that were a little rough. So my screws have been covered up, but I'm going to try to uncover them and try my best to unscrew that piece. So as far as what I'm going to take out, that seam ends right here. So I think I'm just going to carry that on right over to this seam and remove that entire section of floor and replace it. So I'm going to get me a line drawn on here where I have to cut it, and then I am going to make sure that I know exactly what is under here. And I do know for a fact that there is a water pipe going to my outside spigot that runs through this area somewhere. Now if it just comes in and turns and goes that way, but I don't think so because it feeds from my laundry room sink. Hi Mia. And it comes around, and I believe that it comes straight through here. So I'll be using a very short Sawzall blade to do this cutting so that I can make absolutely certain that I do not hit that pipe. I found a couple of screws here, and believe it or not, they want to back out, and there's another one here. Some of them aren't looking very promising, but some of them are. That one just came right out for me. So I'm going to keep digging around for screws and see what I can find. Some of this might just lift right out of here because this board is so degraded that it's not even funny. I mean, it's just soft as soft can be. So I'm going to keep digging for screws, and hopefully I can just lift this piece out without any sawing. If not, then some sawing will take place. I am not having any luck locating enough screws to really make this worth my while. So I've just kind of taken my wood chisel and I've knocked a little hole in here. And I'm just going to start kind of pulling some of this up so I can kind of see what we got going on here. And I do have a support right here. So I think what I'm going to do is just go get the Sawzall and start cutting some of this out so that I can maybe potentially get my hands in there and try and rip this up. But there's obviously some screws through here. I cannot find them. and there's probably screws through the middle. I can't find them, so we'll just start doing a little cutting, get a hole in there, and cut it out. I have this little short sawzall blade here, and I am going to start on this back side over here. The main reason I want to start at the back is because some of this is still going to support me well, and I won't have to worry about reaching over. If I start at the front and work my way back, then I'll have to be standing on floor joists and so on and so forth. So what I want to do is I want to get right in here and just cut me a small hole so I can see what's going on. And also because I know that that water pipe is close to this area. This is actually what seems to be 2 pieces of 1/2-inch plywood or something. Well, I'm not liking the looks of that. I do not see the water pipe, so I'm going to go ahead and just start cutting down this back edge and get that all cut loose. I'm going to move over to my floor joist and cut it right along the edge of that, and then I'll work it out from there. Here's where I'm at. It's kind of slow going, but I need to get this out of here. I have managed to find a couple of screws and remove them, and maybe as I go along I'll continue to find more screws. And then I'll show you here in a little bit when I said that's not good. About 8 years ago, I guess, I discovered that the floor joists underneath this section of the laundry room were rotted, and I replaced them. Some of these were in really bad shape. As you can see, I sistered new ones on. Same thing here. This one's kind of in bad shape, but a new one has been sistered on. But when I pulled out that first section of floor, and I don't think you'll be able to see it, but there's water down there. Of course, you know, the snow's been melting. When we did these repairs, that was pretty dry down there and it wasn't a concern. But any water that gets in there is kind of blocked in, because this is an addition to an addition. So the laundry room used to end right here, basically, and this was added on at a later date. So there's a foundation here. There is a small hole cut in it, so you can kind of see in here. Actually, you can fit through it and get in there, because I did that to relocate this spigot, and here's the water pipe that I was talking about. So I'm going to have to do something about that water down there, which is probably going to be a sump pump, and then I will just run it over to my other sump pump and let it pump it out. But at any rate, I'm going to keep working on trying to get this out, and once I get this all free, we'll get it going on. I did manage to find some screws in through here, which is good. This was underneath the plastic body filler, the wood filler. I had no idea that this was going on, so it's kind of good that I'm here. I have this section out. I still have a long way to go, obviously. That was a little bit of a fight getting that out of there. But I'm very concerned about some of what I'm seeing, and this repair may go further than I had initially thought, because that floor joist is hurt, and as you can see, it has mold on it. So I've got a lot more ahead of me here. Okay, here's the source of my problem. I'm working on getting this water pumped out so that I can get in there and put a sump basin in and get this to where I don't have this problem anymore. Keep this nice and dry. And get me some plastic down in here for a vapor barrier when I get finished. So as soon as I get this done, we'll resume patching this hole. I've got my water issues resolved. I've got a French drain over in that neighborhood over there going through the foundation where I put in a sump pump basin and a sump pump, and I've got that all plumbed in. So my water is gone. It might still be a little damp down there, but it's leaching out and the sump pump's going to take care of it. I've got me a nice vapor barrier. So I'm ready to get this floor finished up. So the first thing that I want to do is remove these boards right here. This one, that one, this one, and this one. I'm also going to take this one off. And then I'm going to put some different material in their place. I have all the material removed that I wanted to remove. Now, when this was rotted out before, we had to replace the entire joist, the rim board for the joist, all the way around, and then we sistered new joist on to the other joist. That's why some of these look bad, because they are bad. But then if you come over to this side, you'll see that everything looks good. So that's the actual support. And they're impossible to rip them out because it's basically holding everything up, and there was no way for us to jack it. They were good enough to get the jacks under and to hold everything into place while we put the new ones in. So that's why they're still there, and they're going to remain there. They're not hurting anything. This is all new material right next to them, so we're good to go. What I'm going to do now, though, is I am going to put a piece of 2x10 right here and screw it over into this one, and it's just going to come back underneath this floor right here just a few inches. So this will sit right down on the rim board. And then I'm going to pull it up tight to the floor, and I'm just going to put me a screw right in here to hold it on this side for me and keep it nice and tight. Just like that. I think I'll run another one in back here. Alright. So now what I'm going to do is run in these structural screws right through and into the joist on the other side here, so that it's got some good beef holding it in there. That is what I want. I'm going to put 5 more of them in, and then we'll be good. We'll get our other spacers in. I've cut a couple of ground contact 2x4s to put back in here. Unfortunately, my gas line is right here. You can see a little bit of the foam around it right there, which won't let me get a full-size board in. And there is some other nails and issues over here that I don't want to cut or bend over or mess with. And there's no problem with these 2x4s being here. The floor joists themselves actually carry the load. So this is just going to give me something to fasten to so that that wood can't flex right there when it gets weight on it. I have the rest of my wood cut, and for here I'm going to use a 2x8. My gas line is down there. It's fairly close and I don't want the board rubbing on it, so I'm just going to use a 2x8. What I like, I'm going to use screws to hold these in, and yes, I am using decking screws. I take my drill and I just start right here, lean it on an angle so that it pokes out here. Gives me a nice pilot hole for the screw. The reason I'm using decking screws is they pull this stuff really nice and tight, and there's no real shear load on them. There's no real lateral load on them. This is not a bad application for a decking screw. For some reason, this joist got in here really crooked, and when we did our repairs, it is also still crooked. So this is going to be a bear to get in there, but I'm going to get it in. I've got the center bridge in place, and what I'd like to do is screw it to the floor first before I attach it to the joist. That way I draw it up to the floorboard rather than drawing the floorboard down to it if it comes in a little low. It just pulls it in there real nice. I've got my wood cut. All the bracing that I need is in for the edges of the wood to land on, so we are good to go. Get this thing closed up. A little out of square. It's missing by about 1/16 of an inch. Attempt number 2. Let's see what we got. There we go. That is it. I marked out my floor joist before I threw it in there, and I'm going to be using 2-inch decking screws to secure this. So I'm going to get this thing screwed down. I'm going to start in the middle here. The last thing I want to do is caulk this in. There's some issues with it being even with the other floor, and I will resolve them tomorrow. I will use some Henry patch and fill. You don't need to prime it, and I'll just get this smoothed out with this other floor. It's not everywhere, but in a couple places for some reason. So that'll take care of that for me. And then I'll be ready to continue on with my flooring. This will just seal up any air leaks, and even if I am going to go over it with the Henry, it'll keep it from seeping down in where you don't really want it. I have some Henry 547 patch and fill mixed up, and I'm going to use that to take care of these ledges. Some of the reason for this is that some of this newer wood is not the same thickness as the older woods. You know, 3/4 inch plywood left us quite some time ago. So all I want to do is get a nice little blend here. And then after I get this initial coat in, I will come back and do this again and make sure that it's all nice and flat. This is probably the worst area right here. And the nice thing is with this product, you do not need to prime the surface. I'm putting in my second coat now. This will be the final coat. And then this project will be a wrap. This is the finished repair. Let this dry 24 hours and I will be putting the rest of my flooring in. So we are good to go, and that's going to make this a wrap. That's all we have for this time. I'd like to thank you for watching. Click on one of those two videos, they're going to pop up right there, and we'll see you soon.